Hello student. In today's class, we are going to discuss this topic, internal and external styling. So I hope you remember in the previous classes, we have done inline styling and we discussed what are IDs and what are classes. So students, I'll just go ahead and write a style attribute for this element. I hope you remember how to write the style attribute. I'll just write color red and I'll refresh the page. And as you can see, color red has been applied to the H2 element over here. So student, inline styling meant writing style on the same line as the HTML element. Today we are first going to discuss internal styling. As inline styling means writing CSS on the same line as the HTML, internal styling means writing CSS on the same page as the HTML element. But to discuss how to write internal styling, first we'll need to discuss why do we need internal styling. This is because writing inline styling comes with certain disadvantages. First of all, let's say if you write 10 different CSS properties of this H2 element on the same line, the code will start looking clumsy. And now imagine you have hundreds of lines of HTML code on this page with hundreds of CSS properties for each element. So the CSS code and the HTML code is going to be completely intermingled and it's not going to look good at all. So this is the first disadvantage of using the inline styling. The second disadvantage is, let's say I want to make two of my li elements as color red. One is default styling and the other is internal and external styling. I did that, and when I refresh the page, it has been done. But to do so, I had to write the style element twice for the same element. This can be easily accomplished by using a common class and writing the CSS property of that class in the internal styling sheet. We'll see how to do that further along in this chapter. So how do we write internal styling? Once we have understood the disadvantage of using inline styling, it actually builds a case for us to start writing internal styling now. To write internal styling, we'll go inside the head tag of the HTML document. We'll write a HTML tag called style. We'll close this tag. And inside this style tag, now you can write CSS properties for all the elements that you want. So this is how we write a CSS property inside this style tag. Let's suppose I again want to make my H2 as color red. I'll write the H2 tag name, give a space, give an open parenthesis and a closing parenthesis, press enter, and I'll write the CSS property, which is color red. Let's suppose I also want to write the font size. I'll mention font size and I'll make it 72px. Now when I go on the page and refresh it, you can see that H2 is color red and font size is 72px. Okay students, I hope you understand up till now. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to quickly design this page with some CSS properties. First of all, I think this page is because there's too much text and all of that is on the left side of the page. We can add some padding between the left and right side so that the text comes onto the center. Just talking from a design perspective. So how can we do that? So students, there's a property called padding. What padding does is, it adds a superfluous or empty space around the element. So we will go ahead and add a padding to the entire body. We'll add it to the body HTML tag itself, so it will be applied to the entire web page. We'll write the body element and we'll write padding as padding 10px, 350px, 10px, 350px. So the syntax goes like this, students. In fact, you can refer it just by easily googling it, as I showed you in one of the classes before. This padding comes in the form of top, right, bottom, left. So it's going to give a 10px padding on the top, 350 on the right side, 10px on the left side, and 10px on the bottom side, and 350px on the left side. We'll refresh it, save it and refresh it over here. And as you can see, the text has now come on the center with a padding on both left and right side. Easy enough. Now we'll use Chrome to edit the CSS of this page. As I told you, Chrome is quite useful because you can directly see how the page is looking on the tool itself. So we'll design here and we'll copy paste it in the web page file for it to take a permanent effect. Okay, students, so I'll just go ahead, I'll select a font size, I'll make it 48px. I'll make it text align center. So student, I'm going to go a little fast now because I hope you understand how everything is working. In any case, if you don't understand, I'll be attaching the code files in the resource section, which you can download and refer on your own. What we are going to do in this section is we'll go fast and design the entire web pages that we have created right now and make it look beautiful. Font family. So font family is a CSS property, students, that is used to describe how the font will look like. Okay. So as you select Times New Roman, Arial, Comic Sans in Microsoft Word, we'll select what the font will look like over here in HTML. As you actually take your cursor over different fonts that is available in Chrome, you can see what they look like. I'm going to go with monospace over here. In fact, I'm going to use monospace for all the fonts. So I'll use it in body directly. If you use it in body, it will be applied to the entire web page. Okay. So it is done, student, and this is for H1. I'll take the color as red again. I'll just make it a little darker. We can just take the hex code directly. Okay, I think this is good. I'll copy all the properties. And we'll go and create a H1 over here and paste it inside it. So do pay attention that I'm always indenting my code properly, students. It's very required, as I'm mentioning again and again, so that when you revisit your code, it's easy for you to understand what you have done. Okay, we'll refresh it. Now we'll check the H2 section. So font size, I'll make it a little smaller than H1. 36px. It's still large. 32px, I think will look good. Okay. Color, I think we can go with something green. A little darker though. Okay, students, so H2 has been done. We have copied the property and saved it. I'll refresh the page and the changes are still there. Now student, for the list element, I'll make the font size a little larger. I think this looks good. 16px, or I'll just make it 18px so that it's more visible. Okay, and I'll let it be of black color itself. Okay, so as you can see, the entire list element has changed because we have applied it to all the allied tags. Instead, what we could have done is we could have changed it for UL tag also, and it would be applied for all the elements inside the UL tag. Still the same effect. Now students, will change something for IDs and classes. I really don't want any underlining. I don't like that. So we can override the default property by writing text decoration none. And I'll let the color be blue so that at least we get to know that it is a link. For A tag, we are making text decoration none. Now students, you can also define what will happen when you hover over an element. So right now we'll change the property of A tag when it is hovered over. To change the hover property, we write the name of the tag and write is to hover, okay, colon, and then hover. Over here, we'll change the background color when we are hovering over an element. We'll make the background color as yellow. So now when we are hovering over the element, students, you can see that the background color is changing to yellow. I hope you understand over here till now. Now students, let's say for some reason, we want to change the color of a li element, that is inline styling, to red. Okay, so we can do it two ways. One is using style, color, red. As you can see, it has been changed to red color. But we also want to change the color of internal and external styling as well. So we'll have to copy it there and then write. I covered this previously as well in this chapter, but I'm covering it again so that it's clearer to you guys. So we have to do it twice. Instead, students, there is a way in which we can just make the color red of both these elements at once. To do that, we'll create a class called as, we can give any name to this class. We'll make it list red, which means list element is red in color. It can be any name, obviously, whatever you like. We'll add this class to both the elements, and then we'll go in the style tag, we'll write dot and the name of the class list red, and then open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and color red. Okay, now we'll delete this style attribute from both these elements. We'll go to this page, we'll refresh it, and the color is still red. So student, when you're writing the CSS properties of the HTML tag itself, you just have to write the name of the tag, which is h1 or h2, ul, or anything that the name of the tag is. But if you're writing the CSS property of the class, you have to use a dot in front of the class name. Okay, I hope you get it. Now I'll show you how to write CSS with ID. Let's say it's heading 2 is the ID of this element. So to write the CSS of ID, you have to use hash in front of the ID name, which is heading 2 in our case. We'll make it just to show it different. So we have already defined h2. So I'll copy it. We'll delete it for now. Oh, sorry, I forgot to copy it. I'll copy it and delete this. And I'll mention this property in the heading 2. So now if you refresh it, that property is still there because you have added in the ID. So if you're writing CSS for ID, use hashtag in front of the ID name. And if you're writing CSS property for a class, use dot in front of the class name. So I'll remove this ID. Obviously, IDs are not generally used much for writing CSS because IDs are unique in nature. But although you can use it at times when required, depending upon the requirement, IDs are actually beneficial when we are writing JavaScript code, as we'll see in the JavaScript chapter. Right now, students, I'll make it h2 again. Because it's not required for us to use the ID overhead. h2 very easily suffices our need. Okay. So it's done, students. Now overhead, I'd like to explain one more thing. As you can see, that we describe the characteristic of UL as font size 18px. Now, for this list red, if we go ahead and write font size as 28px and then go and refresh it, these two becomes larger. So student, why is it happening? Why is this font size 28px overwriting this font size 18px? This is because, and the same reason actually lies why our style is overwriting the browser's default styling sheet. So whenever you define CSS is taken in precedence, it is called cascading style sheet. So whenever you write CSS for an element over here, li is the child element for ul because it comes inside ul. ul is inside div, so ul is a child element of div. Div is inside body, so div is a child element of body. Whenever you define a separate CSS for a child element, it takes precedence over the CSS defined for the parent element. As easy as that. Okay? And it is called cascading style sheet because it comes falling in nature. If a style has been defined after a certain style, that style takes precedence over the style that had been written before. Now, default styling sheet is loaded the first in the browser, but after that, our style is being loaded, so our style takes precedence over browser's default style sheet. You will understand these concepts more when you keep writing CSS codes on your own. But it's actually not a very difficult concept to grasp, and I hope you understand that now. Now, student, we have actually designed a page quite beautifully over here. We'll remove this font size and list red class. In fact, it's not required as of now. Yeah. So our page looks quite decent now. Now, student, there's a problem with this. We want the style to be reflected across all the web pages that we have in IDs and classes, in CSS frameworks, so on and so forth. So what we'll do is, we'll have to copy this and let's say we'll first change it for IDs and classes. I'll open the IDs and classes. I'll add it in the head section. Now when you open the IDs and classes sheet, it has been applied automatically. Let's change the CSS of P element as well. The para tag we haven't covered because there was no para tag in that web page, CSS homepage. We'll make the font size as 18px. It looks quite decent. We'll try to make text align as justify. We'll copy it. We'll create a p tag at the bottom on this page. So now students, the thing is that you will have to copy this style tag on all the pages for it to take effect. That means an additional 40 to 50 lines of code on all the HTML pages. I really don't want to do that. It's quite clumsy and it increases the size of all the HTML files inside my project. So this is what makes a case for using external styling. External styling means a separate external CSS file. As the name says, internal styling meant writing CSS on the same page. External styling means writing CSS on a separate page. So how is it done? We'll copy this HTML file. We'll create a new file. We'll paste it over there. So indentation has gone a little wrong. First we'll save this and then we'll fix the indentation. I'll save it in the home page of our folder called class because it will be used across all the HTML files that we have created till now. I'll name it style and the extension of this file will be .css. Okay, we'll save it. Use .css. Okay, fine. We are done here. I'll just quickly change the indentation of all these elements. Okay students, we are done here. So we have a properly indented CSS file now. So I'll go back to the CSS page.html file. I'll delete this CSS. I'll uncomment this over here. So as you can see, this is a link tag, which is used to include an external file in this HTML page. And as you can see, with the rel attribute and the type attribute, we're telling the browser that this is going to be a style sheet CSS file. So what we have to do is, in the href attribute of this link tag, we have to define the path of the style.css. Now because we are inside the CSS folder right now, and our style.css file is inside the class folder, we have to go a folder out. That is done by using double dot and slash. Now we are inside the CSS folder. And then we'll write the name of the file, which is style.css. Now student, I'll save this page. We'll go back to web development lesson. We'll refresh it and the design has still been applied. So an external style sheet called style.css is now being loaded in this HTML file. So instead of writing those 40 lines of code in every HTML file, we can just go ahead and include this link in every HTML file and the link will automatically be applied. I hope you're following along, student. So I'll fast forward and copy paste this in all the web pages that we have in our project. Okay, students. So as you can see, now the CSS property has been applied to all the pages in our project. You can see the CSS property are reflecting everywhere on each and all of the pages. So this image has been a little off. No worries, we'll fix it later. Now, if we want to change the HTML or the CSS properties on all these HTML pages, what we have to do is just make the changes on this style.css and it will be applied to all the pages because we are including the same style sheet in every HTML page inside a project. Now, student, I think we can lessen this, we can increase the padding a little more so that all of this text is in the center. I'll go ahead and make it 400px. We'll refresh it. Okay, maybe a little less. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, student. Now there's one more thing. So in the inspect tool, you have this mobile-like looking icon. If you click on it, the Chrome opens in a mobile mode. You can select which phone do you want, and if I refresh the page, the web page is opening as if it was opening in a Pixel 2 phone. Now, as you can see, student, it's actually little bad. It's not looking good at all. So what do we do about it? There's a concept of responsive websites when we are doing CSS design. Responsive means that your website should change according to the screen in which it is being opened. To do that, you have to write separate CSS design for different screen sizes. So how do we go about it? To do that, there is something called as media queries. We'll just do a quick Google search about media queries. As you can see in the first example, which is from w3schools.com, this CSS property called media. We'll copy paste it inside our CSS file. We'll go ahead, write it, put this body tag inside of it. We'll indent it. Now, as you can see, at media only screen, it tells that this is being written for a screen size whose max width is 600 px. This means that for screen size less than 600 px, this CSS is going to be applied. Now, we'll copy paste it again and we'll write it over here as min width. Min width means that this CSS property is going to be defined or applied for all screen with pixel size greater than 600 px. So basically, this will be for small laptops, so on and so forth, and this will be for your mobile phones. Now, we don't want such padding to be applied on mobile phones, so we'll make it 10 px and we'll make it 10 px over here as well. We'll go back to our page. We'll close this tab. Now we'll open it in mobile and see it's opening all fine now. Okay, as soon as we exit the mobile mode, we still have the same design with us for desktop. I hope you understand this concept, students. I'll resize the browser and show you. That will make it more clear. So we'll start resizing the browser, and at a specific size, as you can see, it is changing to this. Now you can adjust the pixel levels depending upon what you want. At this size also, I think it's not looking good. So maybe we can increase this to 800 px and this also 800 px so that that body padding is applied to screen size greater than 800 px only. We'll refresh the web page and we'll increase it, we'll decrease it, and now it changes to mobile design quite fast. So you can keep altering it to reach the number that you think will be good for your web page. Okay, students, so I hope you understand now how to use internal style sheet and external style sheet, and we have covered quite a few CSS properties as well, including padding, background color, so on and so forth, and we have also covered the hover characteristic in this class. I hope you understand all of it. If you don't, you can retake this class because it's quite important, and we have used this class to design all the HTML web pages that we have built until now. In the next class, we'll cover a very interesting topic called Bootstrap. But before that, if you don't understand anything pertaining to this chapter, I request you to take it again.